In this episode of Sensational, I'm joined by James Hunt, a dad and advocate from Stories About Autism, sharing his story of raising two autistic boys. We discuss his experience right from the beginning of his journey.
If I think back to the early years, I think it was very emotional, and it was there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry, and that's, I guess, when it hit me. He was developing quite differently. Things are a lot better now than they were 10 years ago.
Navigating home life and relationships.
They're both autistic but very different. They've been living apart for nearly 10 years now. Me and their mum separated. Tommy was just a huge trigger for Jude's meltdowns.
And tips for supporting communication.
Even in the ways we communicate between the three of us, it's very different. Some of the simple things we've used are like objects of reference.
Yeah.
So when we're going to the car, I hold up the car key. With Tommy, he really took to PECs in the beginning and then progressed to AAC device. That opens his world up.
So let's get started. Welcome, James. I wonder if we could start at the very beginning, and can you take us back to the start of your journey when Jude was first diagnosed? And what were the things that you noticed? What were the things that you kind of decided to act upon about getting his diagnosis and taking things forward from there?
Sure. So Jude was diagnosed just before his second birthday, so quite young.
Yeah.
And I guess the first sort of signs started showing around between 6 and 9 months. His mum was, not that we knew it was autism, but she could see he was developing differently from the babies they were going to baby group with.
Yeah.
And he just seemed quite distant, wasn't as excited being around the other kids as the others were. He, wasn't making sounds, wasn't really interacting as much as the other kids. And I thought, he's a boy, he's going to catch up. He was born prematurely, so everyone seemed to say that's the reason.
Yeah.
He's gonna catch up in his own time. He's a boy, he's lazy. And when she took him to the doctors when he was around 9 months, and the doctor agreed with me, I was quite happy with that, and happy for them to go on their way. But that sort of nagging doubt stayed, and Charlotte kept bringing it up every now and again. And then we went on holiday when Jude was just after his first birthday, and we went to the place we were staying in France, and there was a couple staying next door with their little daughter, a German couple, and this little girl was really interactive. She was running around, pointing at things, naming them, really wanted to play with Jude, and Jude just crawled away from her. That's all he wanted to do. He was really uncomfortable. He, didn't have that excitement. And that's, I guess, when it hit me, that's when the first time I really sort of saw that, he was developing quite differently because that little girl was about 2 or 3 months younger than him as well. And I think from that moment, that's when we decided, when we get back from holiday, we're going to push a bit harder and go back to the doctor and see. And like I said, at the time, this is 16 years ago, knew nothing about autism, didn't really have any experience or understanding of it. And it was more just a development delay. It was just realising that, there was a development delay and what is the reason for it. And I guess that's what we walked into.
Okay. And when was it that Tommy came along?
So Tommy's 3 years younger and was diagnosed pretty much exactly the 3 years to the day from Jude's diagnosis.
Yeah.
We went back to the same place, same doctor. And I guess second time round was, I think when you have your second child and your first child's autistic, you spend a lot of the early months sort of looking for it and wondering if he's going to be autistic too, and really overanalyzing the signs.
Yeah.
And I guess up until he was about a year old, we were on the fence of, he does something. He's developing. He's going to talk soon. He's going to. He's not autistic, and then another day something else. It showed different behaviour, and you think no, he's definitely autistic. We're going down that route again. So the process was a lot quicker second time, I think, because they took our word for it a lot more, that we'd been through that experience.
Yeah.
But I guess it didn't really make it any easier. It made it, I think, probably harder, because by then I'd had 3 years of knowing what autism meant for Jude and how difficult that made life for him. So suddenly when we was going through the diagnosis with Tommy, I think it hit me hard at that time because I could kind of see what was ahead for Tommy and some of the challenges that he'd have too.
So we obviously mentioned both the boys there, Jude and Tommy. Can you tell me a little bit about who they are?
Yeah,
about their relationship and what it's like at home for both of them?
So, like I said, so Jude is 17, Tommy's 14. They're both non-speaking, both autistic, both ADHD. And yeah, life has been interesting over the last busy over the last 17 years. They're both autistic but very different. They're both I'd say Jude probably has what would be classed as more of a severe learning disability. He hasn't ever really sort of made any words. He struggles with a lot of basic communication. It's really hard to know how much he understands or takes in. He's has quite high support needs, I'd say. But he adores music.
Amazing.
Music is probably his favourite thing in the world. When he's at home, he's got music on all day long.
What are his favourites?
He's got a really wide mix of music from like old stuff like 60s, 70s to Ed Sheeran is a huge favourite, Beyonce, Bruno Mars, and it's just sometimes it's snippets of songs on repeat and rewound and the iPhone in his ear and sort of rocking back and forth to it. And he loves Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is another huge favourite. So that's generally in our house, it's Mickey Mouse on the TV and music playing at the same time. That's what keeps him excited. But for Jude, one of the problems is he's been really highly anxious as well and struggled around other kids. And for him, other children were sort of loud and unpredictable. And unfortunately, Tommy, his brother, was everything he hated about the world. Tommy was loud and unpredictable, just naturally so. So
they were quite different in their personalities, even though both boys are autistic.
I'd say Jude's very passive and sits back, and Tommy is intrigued and he wants to explore and he wants to take part in things. And Jude would struggle with that. And that's made their relationship really difficult. But for Tommy, he's quite much more logical. He loves puzzles, books. He used to really adore colouring. He'd be colouring, non-stop. And for Tommy, he's non-speaking as well, but he understands everything. I can pretty much tell him exactly what he's going to do all day long, and I know he understands it all. Doesn't always agree with me, but he understands it all. And he communicates in a number of different ways. But for him, I'd say he's much more able to experience the world. We go out to lots of places. We go to parks, we go to farms, we go to, he's been on holiday abroad. He experiences a lot more of the world because he's able to cope and to manage. Whereas for Jude, it's a lot more of a struggle. So he spends a lot more time at home. So quite different personalities. And I guess just very different in the way that they're autistic too. Yeah.
And we've chatted, and I've seen the post that you pop on social media discussing your journey with the boys. They don't live at home together, do they, at the same time? That's been a bit tricky for them because of Jude's sensory differences around, like you say, noise and busyness and what have you. But there are, we've chatted, haven't we? And I've seen recently that you've put on, there have been some lovely moments with the boys together, haven't they, coming together and spending some time at home. So
so they've been living apart for nearly 10 years now. Me and their mum separated about 9-10 years ago. And even for sort of maybe 3 years before that, we were having to separate them all the time naturally at home because they, like I said, Tommy was just a huge trigger for Jude's meltdowns, and Jude would self-injure and be really sort of, get really, really distressed. So we'd have one upstairs, one downstairs, one at the park, one at home, and, rotating between us. And that made life more manageable. But obviously it makes it hard when your kids aren't spending time together. It's difficult. And so when we separated and, we discussed how we were going to make things work for the boys, we realized that they both kind of need one-to-one support, and both, in an ideal world, Jude doesn't want to be in the same room as his brother. So that made it difficult. So we decided temporarily to try having one each and swapping them over every few days. And it's just stuck ever since. It's been, instantly there was a huge reduction in Jude's meltdowns and the way he'd, self-injure. His anxiety levels dropped massively, and it's just led to so much growth and improvement for him.
Brilliant.
And it's given me much more one-to-one time with Tommy as well to sort of develop that relationship.
Yeah.
And getting back to what you mentioned, in more recent years, we've been working harder at bringing them back together, not with the goal of them ever living together full time, but if they could spend more time together, then whether it's a weekend, whether it's a few hours, it just makes a big difference. And with the help of school, they spend time together at school, they have lunch together, they do activities. A few weeks ago, I think the moment you're referencing, we did a day out and took them together, and went to like a local farm and on the trampolines there, and did things that a few years ago we never would have dreamt was possible. But because of that progression and the way I guess Tommy's matured and become a bit more understanding of how his noise affects people. And Jude definitely copes a lot more with kids in general. So it's been some really good progress with that.
Oh, lovely. It's really nice to hear. Really nice to hear. Before we move on to our parent question, in our podcast, we take a question from our parents. I'd just like to ask people if they're enjoying the episode to like and subscribe. And it helps us to grow these kinds of conversations and extend our audience. So please do. Let's have a think about our parent question. So James, our parent question is, I'm a mum of a 5-year-old boy recently diagnosed with autism and DLD. Although we found our own unique ways of communicating, my biggest fear is the world just not understanding him and not supporting his needs. What advice would you give to help society understand, support and love him the way he deserves? That really hit me when I first heard that question, quite deeply.
I think firstly, I completely understand that fear. I've had that fear. I've been there when Jude and Tommy were younger, and to some extent still have that fear today. It's difficult. I think the first thing I'd say is I had that fear 10 plus years ago, and things are a lot better now than they were 10 years ago. And so things are improving. I think there is a much better general understanding about autism and difference.
Yeah, the awareness is definitely growing.
Yeah. So I can see the positives and the way things have improved. Obviously, if you're new to this world, you're at a different starting point, and maybe it is, it can obviously still get better. I think there's a number of things we can do. I think we have to be brave and speak up. I think we have to learn that we can advocate for our kids.
Absolutely.
We can explain to people what they need, what will help make a difference, whether that's when you're in a public place and you just need a little bit more accommodation, whether that's at a theme park or in a restaurant. So many scenarios that can apply to. I think we have to have conversations with family members and friends and be honest. And that can be tricky because some of the people we love have quite entrenched views and views that they've held on to for a long time. But again, I think we have to be brave and talk about these things. And if it's uncomfortable and upsetting, then make decisions of, we've adapted in so many ways to help make life easier for the boys. And sometimes that means not going to certain people's houses because we know it's too tricky, whereas other people will adapt and, create a safe space or make sure the dogs are locked away or, do things that just make it a little bit easier. And I think that comes from time. It comes from experience. I think at 5, when your kid's 5, you're very new to that world. It's all very raw and overwhelming. But I think as the sort of months and years go by, you're going to find your voice and you're going to realise that you can, speak up for your little boy and you will make a difference for him.
It is true. It is true. Beautiful. Thank you. When I think about communication, we touched on communication in that question and just before we had the parent question. What does communication look like for your boys and what do you do at home?
Good question. Firstly, it's very different than I ever imagined. when you have two boys who are non-speaking, and like I said, even in the ways we communicate between the three of us, it's very different. So for Jude, there's not really a communication system that's really worked for Jude. There's PECS, there's AAC, there's all the things we've tried, and it's never really stuck for him. He's never really progressed. I still have hopes with AAC because he is so good at navigating an iPad for YouTube and finding his songs. So I hope that one day we can unlock that for him. But I'd say for him, some of the simple things we've used are like objects of reference.
Yeah.
So when we're going to the car, I hold up the car key.
Yeah.
If we're getting ready to go out, I hold up his shoes, and little things like that you can come to associate with certain places or activities.
Sometimes that can help with the choice, can't it? If you've got two objects, then that helps communicating, which is your preference, which one you might like to go to or do. Yeah.
Definitely. And so visuals haven't really worked with Jude either, whereas with Tommy, they've been really useful. So for Jude, with making choices, it's generally like food, holding two options of food out and him tapping one. And other than that, it's a lot of intuition of just knowing him and of making mistakes over the years and learning, what different sounds mean, what different, I can read his body language really well. Can predict sort of just from the tone of the sounds he's making, sort of what mood he's in and how to adjust to that. And then with Tommy, he really took to PECS in the beginning and then progressed to AAC device, which is used for about 5 or 6 years now. And that opens his world up. He, through using that AAC device, he's come to understand language so much more. Not only can he express to me what he wants, but he spends his time sort of going through the vocabulary and looking at words and listening to them and trying them out. And with the little pictures there, it really helps that he's getting to understand those words. But he also, we use visual schedules, so he knows what's going on. We use so many different things. We use a thumbs up and thumbs down for yes or no, which is just a really simple thing to do.
And that's brilliant when you've not got the communication with you, when you don't have your iPad or you don't have a visual system to hand.
Yeah.
It's still a really valuable way of managing that communication.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. So that's kind of where it came from, is how can we make sure whatever environment we're in, or he can communicate to anybody, if we just ask him the right questions. Sometimes I have to go through 10 no's to get to the right question. Then that really helps. Or what I do is hold up 2 hands and give a choice on each one. So do you want to go to the shop or the park? And he'll tap which one it is. And that's really useful in the moment. We sort of I wouldn't say we gave up on writing, but he struggled with learning to write. So we flipped it and went for learning to type instead, because that was a lot easier for him. And I mean, I don't write very often these days. We spend our time on keyboards or texting.
We've got little computers in our pockets now,
exactly,
don't we? So
exactly. So for him, that's been really beneficial. And even when he uses his AAC device now, a lot of the time he doesn't use the symbols; he just types the words out. So that's been sort of really good for him. And he does have some sort of half of words. He can say the first syllable words. So he can say da, but he doesn't say da, duh. He says da. And so he has some sounds that you can kind of figure out what's going on. So in summary, like communication is so much more than spoken language. There's so many elements to it. And I think when your children are non-speaking, that's kind of forces you to open your eyes and figure out, okay, well, how else can we communicate? How else can we understand each other? And I guess, over the years, that's what's come from it.
But it's super hopeful to hear that. So that if you are starting out, if you're listening today or watching today and you are at the beginning of that journey and your child is non-speaking, it's a hopeful story that there is lots out there that you can explore, and it might not be the first thing that you come across that works, and you might have to try several different things, and you might have to mix it up a little bit, but your child will communicate, and you are the expert in your child, and you will get there.
Definitely. And I think, and there's many parents and families that I've met whose kids were non-speaking who are now speaking, and they're non-speaking at 10 and non-speaking at, so there's always hope for some kind of spoken language, but at the same time, I also think that, as you said, you become an expert in your child and you find ways that work for you, and the difficulty is with Jude, it's hard for other people for random people to understand him. For people who know him, they get him and understand him really well. But for Tommy, obviously with his device, he can sort of communicate more openly. With if he went into a shop, he could use it potentially. So there's lots of different things, and it's just about finding what works for you and for your child.
Well, it sounds like you've done that. Moving away from the boys, let's just have a little bit of a think about yourself, because I know that there's a fair amount that you've done in the community to raise awareness around neurodiversity. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So nearly 10 years ago now, I first started sharing stories online. I found it really difficult to talk about autism. I found it hard to explain to friends and family what Tommy and Jude were like. We were not going to sort of social occasions that you do with your kids, and where you get to spend time with other people and they get to know your kids. So I wanted to try and help them understand. I wanted to get things out of my head, I guess, that I was struggling with. And so, about 10 years ago, I made a few Facebook posts and just telling little stories, really, of what happened in a day, and whether it was a good day or a bad day, or and in the hope that friends and family would read it, and then when we do actually meet up, we could just have easier, more open conversations. And from there, it really grew. It became something that you realise that other people are interested in as well, and that there are families all over the world who are going through these exact ups and downs on a daily basis, and who feel alone, and who want to read about others and feel more connected. And from that, I've pretty much been sharing stories every day since. And it's given me a real sort of purpose. It's given me a real community of people who, online and in person, who I've met, who I'd say are good friends now, and I know about their kids, and they share about, they know Tommy and Jude really well, and it's been really helpful for me. And then from that, it's given me lots of opportunities to do things like this. Come and have a chat.
I heard from our team that you were coming on the podcast, and I was like, oh, I know James. Well, I don't know James, but I feel like through your posts on social media, because in my family, I have an autistic child. And so you, like you said, you want those connections. You look for those spaces where you can feel safe to share, and that you can feel connected, and you feel like you're not alone. And yours was one of the spaces that I found. So it was like, oh yeah, I know James. That's great that he's coming on. So you achieved your purpose, certainly for me anyway.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember when Jude and Tommy were young, I had this, I didn't know any other families with autistic kids. My boys both go to a special needs school, but we don't go to the school gates. They get on a school bus. We don't have those connections. We don't really spend time there. And I didn't know anyone else. And I went on social media and just stumbled across a few other stories, and, couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, there's this family in America that's Jude. That's a 10-year-old Jude. I can really see that and I think that's what people want. A lot of the messages I get are about people, they see something in their children in Tommy and Jude. And it could be something as simple as the way they flap their hands. It could be that they're non-speaking. It could be, there's so many different things, and it just reassures people a little bit. And I think from the very first time I got that, it just become more, I want to do this. This is, this feels rewarding. It feels nice that you can concentrate and do things like this.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about Stories About Autism and how you've extended it out.
Yeah, so we've done lots of things since it started. I went to Sydney earlier this year to speak at an autism conference there, which was amazing. Just in the fact of being able to get away was amazing. That was a very big achievement in terms of Tommy and Jude coping with the change of routines and everything like that. And yeah, pushed us all out of our comfort zones a bit, I think.
I think that flight would push me out of my comfort zone.
And yeah, so we've done, I've been able to do things like that, talk to companies, meet parents at events. And then about 18 months ago, I started a clothing brand called SA Clothing. And again, all tying in with Stories About Autism, with the idea being that we're trying to make people feel less alone. I wanted to create something that was recognizable, that people sort of resonated with in terms of the message, but also was a bit fun and cool, and people wanted to wear it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've been able to do with, it's been really popular. We've opened a shop in our local town where families come in and come and have a chat. We've got a sensory room in the shop, so
brilliant.
When the kids come in, they go and hang out, and it makes the shopping experience a lot easier. And generally, when families come in, they're there for like half an hour, 40 minutes, and we're just talking. We're talking about EHCPs. We're talking about sleepless nights, and all those kinds of things. So it's really become a community. And for the people who can't get into the shop, the point is the clothing. The idea of it is to be a sort of conversation starter. And we constantly get messages from people where they've been to the park and seen a parent wearing a hoodie and have started talking to them, or they've been to the school gates and seen someone and didn't realise that their child was autistic. And I've been in that situation where you're sort of worried what everyone around you is thinking because because Tommy's flicking sand, or Jude's having a meltdown, and you feel like all eyes are on you. So it's nice to know that people are connecting, and especially when you go to the park, you can see everyone else having fun, and just parents just chatting and sitting back having a coffee on the bench, and you're running around trying to you've
got to be a lot more on
calm.
it, a lot
exactly,
more alert to what's happening.
It's nice to see that. And I just feel that by doing that, if you see someone wearing an item of our clothing, that you just feel less alone. And that's the idea behind it. And yeah, it's, as I say, it's really grown in 18 months, and it's meant we have staff now who they're either parent carers or they're neurodivergent themselves, and it's just a real community.
It really sounds like it. It does sound. It sounds like a real safe space for your community.
It has been.
Gorgeous.
It's given me a lot of. It's taken a lot of the online stuff and made it face to face. So you're getting that connection. I get it a lot through messages or through screens of, lives and Zoom meetings and stuff like that. But now we're actually getting it. We're doing events as well. We've got our first one. We've done a couple of small ones for parents and for kids locally. But in September we're doing one where we're taking over. We're doing like a Zen festival basically.
Oh, amazing!
So we've got about 2,000 people come in. We've got and it's all just for our community you can come and have fun and just be surrounded by others who get it. And that's the idea. You're not worried. We did it for about 50 people recently and saw the parents, just the anxiety levels drop, and the hugs and the conversations. And now we're doing it on a bigger scale, and it's gonna be really fun.
Oh well, I can't wait to follow that story. That's amazing. We're coming to the end of the podcast now, but I just wondered, just to finish up, if you wanted to share a message or a thought, or even just a memory to help people who are at the beginning of a journey that's similar to your own. Just a message to leave with them as we kind of progress to the end of the podcast.
I think if I think back to the early years, I think it was very emotional, and it was there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry, and you put your head sort of way down the line. And if I'm honest, the things when the boys were 3, I worried about 7. I was really, oh my God, what are they going to be like when they're 7? What are they going to be like when they're 15? And when they got to 7, I worried about 15. And then, now we're here, I can feel myself starting to worry about adulthood. But I couldn't have predicted what would have happened in those 10 years or so that have passed. And my boys have made so much progress in certain ways. And life's very different. A lot of the things I worried about just haven't happened and have naturally changed. And I think it's natural to have those worries, but somehow we have to try and sort of stay in the present a little bit and focus on the here and now, because things will change so much. And the more you can sort of stay in the here and now and just work on today, tomorrow, work on connecting with your child where they are now, rather than worry about what's going to happen in the future, I think that firstly takes a big weight off of you, and it can makes it a bit more enjoyable. Because there was times that I'd be honest, I didn't enjoy it because I was too stressed and worried. I wasn't just being a dad. There's so many other things we have to do as a parent of, a child with additional needs. The forms, the battles, all of those things. And it takes away from sort of the fun side of parenting a bit. And I think if I could go back to when they were sort of 4 or 5, I'd definitely concentrate more on that and just trying to have fun and yes, we have to fight for certain things, and yes, we have to battle for certain things, but on a day-to-day basis, just try and make it about, what's going to make them happy today. How can we connect? What can we do that's going to give us all a good day? Yeah. And, that makes it feel a lot lighter.
Oh, thanks so much for joining us today and really sharing openly and honestly what life looks like for you and Tommy and Jude. I really appreciate your candour coming on the podcast today. Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure to be here.
And thank you to everybody at home for joining us on this episode of Sensational.